And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. We got Crusty Old Guy here. Just as a couple of reminders, make sure to hit that like and follow button on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble about hockey on a weekly basis. Also, just as a reminder, if you're going to the last two games of the Blackhawk home home games for the Blackhawks season, please wait for whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. The food will still be there. The beer will still be there. The bathrooms will still be there. Just be kind to the people around you and wait for whistle before getting out of your seat or trying to get back to your seat. Sincerely, Section 330. Also, as a reminder, if you're wanting to get food before the game and you don't want to pay $25 for chicken tenders at the United Center, there is a great place on Ogden, just a couple of blocks away from the United Center, called Su Taqueria del Taco. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Good food. It's close. So next year in the dead of winter, that'll be a nice quick walk when it's freezing. But yeah, let's get into it.
All right.
Still sort of the same stuff in the NHL scope. You know, the Eastern Conference, that second wild card spot is going to be a mess. And I think it's going to be decided close to the last game of the season, if not the last game. If not, it might be, decided by other games completely unrelated to those teams that are kind of within a point or two from each other for the second wild card spot. It's a mess. Everybody that's in that competition does not seem like they actually want to go to the playoffs, which is funny to me.
Yeah, the only thing that's really happened is the Islanders have won 4 in a row, so they basically have overtaken Philadelphia. And the Torts Misery Tour continues.
Woo!
So, just a little bit of a coaching difference. Torts decides to bench his captain and yell and scream at them. Patrick Waugh decides to talk nice about his players for the most part. And they win 4 in a row.
Oh, you're actually calling him by his actual name.
He won 4 in a row. Roy can be called Waugh for this for just this little bit. But they look like they should get into the number 3 spot. And that second wild card way up in the air.
Very interesting. We had quite a few teams clinch this past week their playoff spot, including Toronto, Tampa, Winnipeg, Edmonton, and most recently Nashville. And as of last night, the New Jersey Devils have been officially eliminated from playoff contention. Big sad.
Yeah, that's a rough one. That was one of my teams.
I want to ask Crusty Old Guy, what happened this year with New Jersey? What happened? Because it can't just be, Jack Hughes was out for a bit.
Well, Jack Hughes was out for a bit. Number one, they were unsure about their goaltending going in, and their goaltending continued to be unsure. Dougie Hamilton going out for the whole year did not help. He's a veteran presence on the back end. So basically you had Luke Hughes trying to fill his shoes, and Luke's just a baby. They lost a couple forwards to free agency, nothing major. It's a hard game, and I think they finally realized that nothing's given to you in the NHL, and you can kind of get on a roll and things are a little easier. But they were never able to get on a roll, and they could not find their groove. They're a team that I don't think really does much different than before, except find a goaltender. So
very interesting.
That's my take on it. It's the same players.
Can I interest you in a Jackson Stauber in a couple of years?
I think they'll be in play for somebody a little better than that. We'll have 2 teams in the East that'll really be looking for goaltenders.
Which
and that's, the Devils and I would assume the Sabres.
Very interesting. I also feel like, and I may or may not know, just because I don't pay too much attention to this team per se, because I got a vendetta against them. But I also feel like Pittsburgh's a little bit up there in terms with their goaltending isn't the most consistent.
It is not. They've given the net to that Novakovic or whatever, who, yeah, he was on Carolina, went to Detroit, went someplace else. Now he's with Pittsburgh. He's the one finishing out their time. I do not believe it's Yari. So, yeah, that's the team. But Tristan Yari is still signed for 3 more years. So you're kind of stuck there.
Very interesting. You got anything else in the NHL world that you'd like to talk about?
I don't think so. No, we'll talk more NHL world, once
when we're fully,
right?
There's no more Blackhawk hockey.
Yeah, with our big preview show and our big, first round show. Oh my God. It'll be unbelievable.
We just need everybody to solidify their spots and then we'll have it. All right. Let's get into our farm report. Frozen Four starts this Thursday. So just as a reminder, that is Denver, Michigan, Boston. We have Chicago Blackhawk prospects on 3 out of the 4. Just don't have anybody at Boston College. You've got Ryan Green at Boston University, Frank Nazar at Michigan, Aiden Thompson at Denver. Should be pretty entertaining. Do you have any predictions going in, Krusty?
I still figure it's going to be an all Boston final. It'll be on ESPN2 if I believe. I would tape it or something, and when you're bored, maybe give it a little bit of watch. It still should be pretty good hockey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe it'll be an all Boston final.
It's okay. The Boston University won't be back there next year when Macklin Celebrini is in the NHL.
So you say.
A girl can dream. A girl can dream.
I hear you.
Heading to the CHL, we've got Sam Savoie with the Rune Nerada Huskies going into round 2 starting on Friday. They will have home ice against the Victoriaville Tigers. This one's a little interesting for me because there are a couple of teammates that from Savoie's year prior when he was on the Gatineau Olympiques, when Gatineau made a decent run last year in the playoffs. There's a couple of guys that are playing on Victoriaville. My main one that piques my interest is a kid named Leno. He got drafted decently high this past draft from Anaheim. Kid's very entertaining. Definitely a key piece. I don't think next year. I think he, may make the jump to the AHL next year, but he's definitely a big piece in the puzzle for Anaheim that's coming. So excited to see that. Then we've got Alex Frond with the Sudbury Wolves going into round 2 on Thursday versus North Bay. And we've got Gavin Hayes going into round 2 on Thursday versus the Saginaw Spirits. Haven't watched a ton of Gavin Hayes, but they're playing Saginaw Spirits, which Krusty Old Guy found that there is a guy that is climbing through the ranks for the draft this summer. You want to talk about the kid?
Do you know how to pronounce his name? Because I sure don't.
Harik, one of those.
Harik. Yeah, he's a defenseman for them. He's got about like 70-something points. He's supposed to be dynamite. Supposed to be Erik Karlsson with the ability to play defense. I do know the last thing that Elite Prospects sent out, he was number 5 on their board. a kind of place where I go to get some of my information
We love a
and
league
hockey
prospect.
talk. People are really clamoring about him that have seen him. So I will be purchasing the OHL second round pack so I can watch that. So I will have a good report on Hayes and this other kid.
Nice.
I don't know where I'm going to find the time to watch all this, but
So
I'll
much
figure it out.
hockey to watch. And unfortunately, our Paul Ludwinski was knocked out. Kingston Frontenacs got knocked out in 5 games by North Bay Battalion. However, good news come because Paul Ludwinski is great. Paul Ludwinski, according to the AHL transactions page, has headed to Rockford, which is great. He signed his entry level, I believe it was this past summer going into training camp, if I'm correct. Chris Gilder might just correct me. So he already has a contract with Chicago, so he is just going straight to Rockford. Nick Lardis, who signed his entry level 2 weeks ago, is also going to Rockford, but he's on an amateur tryout contract, which I'm very confused as to why you have 2 kids that are both on an entry level. One has to sign as an ATO and one's just like good to go. My only thing would be age. I think it's like a 2 or 3 year difference in terms of age from Paul Ludwinski to Nick Lardis. And it might be once you hit 20, you don't have to be on an amateur tryout anymore. I don't know. If you're listening to this and you do know, let us know.
Yes, I don't know either. So
there's a lot of rumblings. Will they play? Will they not? I don't think Nick Lardis will play. I think he'll be very much there practicing and with them, but not necessarily playing for games. Very similar thing to what Nolan Allen and Colton Dock did before they came to Rockford when they were still with Seattle. Seattle gets knocked out. They kind of just like observe the Rockford Ice Hogs like, hey, this is what it looks like at the next level. I do think, and fingers crossed, just because I like to watch this kid play, I do think Ludwinski will get a bit of time because, as was reported last night, Cole Gutman is out for 3 to 4 weeks with a lower body injury. That's a substantial amount of time, especially going into the first round or 2 of the playoffs. That's a lot of minutes that Gut Punch has been putting into the team. That's a lot of, not only the position on his line, but, power play sort of situations. He's been one of the superstars this season, and especially the tail end of the season. So it's just a big gap for Rockford to fill. I don't think Paul Ludwinski is going into the AHL filling that immediately. But, I do think there's more of a Colton Dock takes a little bit more. Maybe Sorella takes a little bit more. Rolston kind of takes a bit more of the minutes that are, up in the air because Gut Punch isn't there. And then Ludwinski has the ability to come in and be a 3rd or 4th line position for Rockford, depending on the situation, just to take the extra bits. Any thoughts on your boy Ludwinski? What do you think? He's your guy.
He's my guy. Usually in those situations, they don't let him play. Everybody's done work to get this far, so you don't like to. But again, as you pointed out, with Gut Punch now being hurt, I'd like to see him. I've got a question for you. What number is he wearing?
I don't know. That's a good question. Because he was wearing 19 when he was with Kingston, and he can't wear that. I honestly do not remember what he wore at training camp last summer.
Okay. I was just checking.
Yeah. I want to say 37, maybe in the 30s, perhaps. But I only really remember that Savoie is 67.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll figure it out. I'll be able to figure that out in a second. Maybe.
maybe, perhaps. But yeah, very exciting. Once again, as we say kind of every week, every day we get closer and closer to Rockford becoming more exciting. And these two additions are definitely a huge piece in the future and just more positive things for Rockford in general. But gosh, it would be so cool if he got to play during the playoffs.
Yes, it would.
I think he could. They really don't have anybody else. Like all of their other big key pieces are hurt. So I think they should just let the kid play. Maybe a game. You looking up what number he's gonna be?
I'm doing a quick look at it.
All right, I'll start talking
but
about
I would assume
Yeah.
it's Rockford, so I would assume they don't have it up yet.
They don't even have him on the roster on their website. You have to look at the transaction. You'd have to see what a picture of what he wore to camp.
Oh, he's gonna do what everybody else does.
Hmm.
He'll be 91.
There we go.
So there you have it.
There you go. Speaking of Rockford, Ice Hogs lose 3-0 on Friday against the Grand Rapids Griffins. This is where I get on my little soapbox when everybody's talking about a rebuild. Yes, we are going through a rebuild. Yes, we have exciting pieces coming. But guess what? So is everybody else. So is everybody else. Everybody else is working on getting new pieces, and they're already a couple of years ahead of us in terms of rebuilding. Not to be the Debbie Downer, but just as a reminder, like we are not the only ones building our team. Especially from a goaltending standpoint. We've got Drew Camasso, we've got Adam Guyon coming soon-ish whenever he can. And that's great. But there are plenty of other AHL teams that are affiliated with an NHL team that we play quite a bit in Rockford's division that also have the, new goaltender of that team. Milwaukee's got Askarov, which Milwaukee's affiliated with the Preds, and the Grand Rapids Griffins, who the Ice Hogs lost to on Friday, which are the AHL affiliate to Detroit, have Sebastian Cossa, and this kid is a menace. He's a problem now, and he's going to be a problem in the NHL. So just as a reminder, like you will be seeing these kids in the future. And just because we're going through a rebuild doesn't mean everybody else is on pause until we've rebuild. So
yeah, and as they also saw that there's Wallstead, with Minnesota also, so
everybody's got one. Friday it was just not really a ton of effort. I think I'm partial to Sebastian Cossa quite literally is that good. Grand Rapids is also just a very competitive team. I hate to say it because they are affiliated with Detroit, but they are a very skilled hockey team. They're definitely in the position where, they are a couple of years ahead of us, where a lot of their big key pieces have been playing together in Grand Rapids for, a year or two now. So they're just overall meshing and a bit more skilled just because they're ahead of us in terms of their rebuild. I don't think Detroit's not out of they're not doing a complete ground zero rebuild, but there's definitely been significant pieces moving. Also, I hate to say this, but it's the truth. The management for Detroit in terms of the general manager and acquiring prospects and, that does all of that, they're not dumb. They're going to pick people out they're going to draft players. It might seem like a little out of pocket, but they're not stupid. Everything is for a reason, and we are seeing it now in Grand Rapids.
Yep.
I remember when Moritz Seider got drafted and everybody was like, are you for sure? And now we're all like, yep, that fair enough. The draft, the projected draft list does help in a sense, but at the same time, there could definitely be ones that were, projected to be a lot lower that end up actually being the true superstar. And I think Detroit and Anaheim, unfortunately, have a knack of finding those guys. All right. And they played Saturday. Ice Hogs win 3-1. Sebastian Cossa was not in net. It was a back-to-back, but Friday night they were in Grand Rapids. Then both teams had to drive to Rockford to play the following night. So bits and pieces were tired on both ends. Grand Rapids seemed to be a little bit more tired than the Ice Hogs, probably because they played a lot better on Friday. Wyatt Kaiser is now back with the Rockford Ice Hogs. Yuri Felkman was released from his amateur tryout contract. Really doesn't mean anything. So he is going back to Europe. And then we had another win over the Iowa Wild, 4-3. Drew Commesso was in net. One of the main concerns that I've seen with Rockford this season, and I feel like it is going to go into the playoffs, but maybe not. We don't know, because I think this is also the first year in a while that Rockford's actually clinched a spot and has not had to go through the wild card system to go into the AHL postseason. But they're really hot in the first period. They're going great. And then once they get, they're up 2-0 or maybe a 3-1, they have like a multiple goal lead over the other team. Then there's just absolutely no gas in the tank. And they just either, aren't performing every shift. They're taking stupid penalties. A lot of it is that they're taking really stupid penalties, just back to back to back to back, constantly in the box. And so then they tie. The other team ties. And then they pull it out of their butt in the third period and somehow win, or they're very close and they don't win. And it's just very much a consistent. I'd like to see just less of a dip in the middle of the game, because right now it's just so drastic. We're up by a couple and we just think that we can coast. And, sometimes you can't. If you're playing Chicago or you're playing Manitoba, you can coast a little bit. But if you're playing Texas, if you're playing Milwaukee, if you're playing Grand Rapids, you can't, because guess what? They're not coasting. They're not. They're playing the full 60 minutes. So I would just like to see a little bit more of trying to play more of the full 60 and not just when we need to.
So you want a little more killer instinct, huh?
Yeah.
You want them to squash people, step on their throats.
Yes, because guess what? They're doing it to us sometimes.
I hear you.
That is all I have on Rockford. Let's get into Chicago. We got 3 games to talk about.
3?
3.
Okay.
Well, 2.5. 2 and the one that's going on right now.
Okay, so 2.
So 2. We got Chicago versus Dallas, or the game I like to call "How Did We Win This?" Yeah, shout out to Dallas trying to coast a little bit and telling Tyler Seguin he can take the day off, starting Wedgwood, which, to be fair, I know they were playing the next day and they were playing a more competitive team the following day, but still, thanks for the win, guys. 3 stars for me personally. Third is going to be Connor, because Connor was being Connor and that first goal was so good. Second is Seth, and to just silence all the Seth Jones haters, I think he definitely showed during the Dallas game that, he's here for a reason. The man has talent. The man deserves a bit more respect than I think some meatheads are giving to him right now. And then first one is tied, because one is the obvious, that is Peter Mrazek, but I would also love to give an immense shout out to Lucas Reichel. That man has gone through a big confidence dip this season, has not performed as well as people would like. But it's also very hard when every reporter doesn't like you in the city that you play in. It's got to get to you. And going back to Rockford, I know he wasn't pleased with it, but he came back and he just looks so much better. The confidence is there. And we should give credit where credit is due. So first star, a 50-50 between Peter Mrazek and Lucas Reichel. Yeah, how did we win this? It still amazes me. It was awesome.
Yeah, well, I think you basically summed up most of it. That was Peter Mrazek. And they did just enough. Dallas still dictated most of the play. But we did just enough and made good choice of a couple opportunities. Reichel with a great play, and just enough to get a win, which was nice. As I said, I didn't think they'd win a game this month.
Yeah,
they're at least going to win one.
Yeah, they're like, we're not going to do great, but at least we're going to prove crusty old guy wrong.
There you go. And who doesn't want to prove crusty old guy wrong?
The other thing is, Connor Bedard's still on the wing, and we're the only ones talking about it aside from Ben.
That is untrue.
There's other people talking about it now.
Your guy Phil asked the question.
Yes. Thank you, Phil.
So, Luke with a pretty nice answer basically came out and said, listen, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Sometimes he'll be F1, sometimes he'll be F3. He expounded on it a little bit, and he goes, really, even a couple years down the road, we'll see what we have and we'll adjust. That to me means if I've got a couple big centermen, good chance he goes onto the wing. Yeah. If I've got a couple big wingers, he plays center.
Yeah.
So yeah, Phil at least asked the question. Luke said it's not about making things easier on him. It's not about defensive responsibility. It's more about what they have right now. So basically meaning, Dick's against certain teams, he's better off having a strong centerman with Connor. Against other teams, he'll move him to the wing. He is not concerned that it impedes Connor or doesn't, and it won't. He'll be able to go on from anywhere. So there you have it. So I think that's what his way of telling even next year, they're probably going to move him around a little bit.
I love that answer. I'm okay with that answer. I think it also only helps Connor to be more flexible, like to be moved around quite a bit. It only helps him in the long run.
Yes.
So, and I'm really
it'll be okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the question was asked, answered, was a nice thought out answer by Luke. So, I mean, he had 2 weeks to get ready for it.
Yeah. So. That's because we're not let into the media thing yet.
That's right.
Also, do gotta say, the wildest officiated game, I will say, in Dallas for the Dallas one. There was a no goal, and then Toronto had to look at it. Then the guy came out and said, it's a goal. Never mind. It's not a goal. And then the second ref had to come up and say, to avoid confusion, it's a no goal. And I'm like, I didn't know that we needed all of this.
Yeah, it's also one of the problems I have with the NHL is, listen, I understand that we're TV friendly, but those of us who are at the game, there's no announcement what's going on. I didn't know there was a challenge until I saw one of the refs looking at the iPad.
Yeah.
I don't know why they couldn't say it's a good goal being challenged by Dallas. That announcement was never made.
Yeah.
NHL's got to do a better job of keeping the people at the game somewhat informed. It can't be that difficult. I mean, whether it's a linesman or somebody, take the extra second and let everybody else inside the stadium know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
It would be nice, but again,
You don't get nice things when it comes
nobody
to
likes a crusty old guy.
you don't get nice things from the NHL. Do we want to go over real quick in terms of like how that works?
Sure.
Like, versus they're calling it a no goal. When does Toronto look at it? When can they do a challenge? Sort of a thing. Because I know I even get tripped up on it.
Well, once they decide it's a goal, it's a goal. Toronto does not get involved. Toronto will get involved just to make sure that the puck crosses the line.
Okay.
That's all they are to do. Anything else needs to be challenged.
Okay.
So I believe they were challenging that it actually went in. I don't even know what the heck they were challenging. What were they? Because that was which goal was that?
That was
I'm trying to
not the
remember.
one where it like should be high sticking and it went in, and it was before that.
Right, because
That
it was
one
the
got-
one before that. Because that.
I'm not
So
sure.
basically, that's all they do. Dallas stated that it was, I believe they were under the impression it was goaltender interference. And it came back from Toronto that it was not, and it was a good goal. And that's why they get then the 2-minute delay game penalty. So, and then the other goal was considered a good goal by Dallas to make it 3-2. It looked, from our vantage point, almost like Jamie Benn might have had a stick above the shoulder.
There's no mic. He did.
Luke did not challenge it, basically because if he's wrong on it, then Dallas would also get a power play.
But Dallas got the power play anyway.
Right. And 2 seconds
then-
later, after the goal, they took a penalty. But, what can you do?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. But yeah, good game. Minnesota, not so good.
No, Minnesota, there's no. Put it in the list of a bunch of other games that just aren't really worth talking about. Nobody showed up. Nobody did anything. There is absolutely nothing to talk about. It was pretty pathetic.
All right. And you don't want to talk about the one that's going on right now? For
Yeah, I only know it's
Chicago's playing St. Louis right now, but this was the only time we could record because I need time to edit.
yeah. They went down 4-0 real quick, and it was 4-1. And I'm gonna watch the third period at some other point in time. So, again, another terrible start in a year of terrible starts.
That is true. That is true. Yeah,
Okay,
it's just bad.
it is bad. It's not going to get any better, but sooner it'll be over.
It'll be over. Yeah, I've never been this excited. Like, I don't like April. I don't like the end of Blackhawk hockey. But I've never been more excited to just stop watching this. I would just really like to get to the point where I stop texting you or saying during games, I can't wait for Tenorti and Magna to be gone.
Yes.
Because it's just, it's boring it's just all the same.
Yeah. Again, I've listened to a little bit of Jay go through their stuff. We've talked to Ben Pope and Phil a little bit. It's tough to cover this kind of stuff when it's the same crap in, same crap out. It's a mess. So, we will reset. We'll do one more before the end of the season, right?
Yeah.
And then we can talk about NHL and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll have two more.
Ah.
before the end. We'll have one. Well, yeah, we'll just have one more before the end. So then we'll talk a little bit more on, the rest of the NHL, look back at our beginning season predictions that we made over the summer, the mid-season predictions that we made a couple of months ago in terms of who's going to the playoffs. Maybe I'll do a separate video breaking down just the playoffs in itself. Rockford will go to the postseason. We'll cover a bit of Rockford. We'll still cover a bit of prospects, depending on how far they go. And then we can start looking forward to my favorite thing, and that is the draft.
Yeah. But playoffs will be really good. There's going to be some phenomenal matchups.
Is there any team in particular that you're the most excited for?
Any team that I'm the most excited for?
Or to just see like their matchup, or just see them and see how they do in the postseason? Like, I know you don't get excited by other teams, but is there one that you're like, man, they're going to be fun in the postseason?
Well, again, there's a possibility for an Edmonton-Vegas series to start off in the first round. And I believe, hold on real quickly, and I'll tell you what else I'm looking forward to.
I'm excited to watch Florida beat Toronto. I'm very excited.
That's the other one. You got Florida, Toronto, and you'll probably have Boston against Tampa, which will be another great. Tampa's finding their groove again.
Am I actually going to be cheering for the Boston Bruins?
Well, you're supposed to, so we get a better draft pick, but.
Well, I don't like Tampa ever since the guy.
So I don't know who you're going to root for, but it's
Tampa for me.
That should be pretty interesting. And of course, we'll be checking in on Carolina because we both got a little fondness for the Canes.
Oh, absolutely. I think, I just like Carolina in general because of the history with Ruutu and, Teuvo being one of my favorites. But I think Seth Jarvis is one of the funniest hockey players, and he's just so weird that I like watching the Hurricanes. So yeah, it should be entertaining. You got anything else for this week?
I got nothing else. I got a neighbor with a clogged sink and dogs that want to go out. So I haven't been completely in tune with you this episode. And I apologize, Hockey Princess. Got a lot on my mind, but good show.
Good show. All right. Just as a reminder, if you're going to hit the last couple of games this season for the Blackhawks, please wait for whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. The beer will still be there. The bathroom will still be there. The bad food will still be there. Speaking of good food that's down the street from the United Center, Su Taqueria El Rey del Taco, just a couple of blocks over on Ogden. Excellent food. Make sure to
tell him the Hockey Princess sent you.
Yeah, tell him that, we sent you. Make sure to hit that like and follow on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, however you watch or listen to us on a weekly basis. If you have any questions, you want to be on an episode, yes.
Write us a review or send us an email or state what kind of backdrop you want Hockey Princess to be going with next year on this podcast.
What do you mean, what backdrop?
Instead of the mountains, look behind you. There's something to think about. All of those people that have listened for the whole show. Okay, I'm done.
All right. If you have any questions, comments, you want to be on an episode, like our bonus episodes that we've had a couple of times throughout this past month, send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. There's a social media platform. We're probably on it. That is all, and we will talk at you guys next week.